There is a symbol so deeply embedded in American visual culture that a child who has never seen a real police car in their life will draw one correctly. 2 colors, black and white, split somewhere across the body of the vehicle. No child is taught this. No manual instructs artists to draw it this way. No federal law has ever required it. It simply exists in the visual memory of the country the way stop signs are red and school buses are yellow and ambulances are white. Except unlike the school bus yellow, which you now know came from a 7-day conference in 1939. And unlike the outlet design, which came from a century of electrical fatalities, the black and white police car came from something smaller. One man, one department, one city, one decision made in 1950. That spread across the entire country, not through legislation or federal mandate or safety research, but through a weekly television drama that put a black and white car on screen, in front of 40 million American households every single Thursday night, until the image became so inseparable from the concept of law enforcement that departments who had never used the scheme began repainting their fleets to match what their residents expected a police car to look like. The most recognized law enforcement symbol in America was created by a TV show that was trying to accurately depict a real department that had already made the decision for completely different reasons. Before 1950, police cars in America looked like any other government vehicle. Dark colors, solid, utilitarian. The Los Angeles Police Department ran dark green vehicles for most of the 1930s and 1940s. Other departments ran dark blue, some ran black. The logic was simple and practical. Dark colors did not show road grime. They projected seriousness. They required less maintenance to look presentable than lighter shades that showed every speck of dust. Visibility was not part of the calculation because nobody had yet framed visibility as a problem that vehicle color needed to solve. Police cars were identified by their markings, their sirens, the uniformed officer inside. The idea that the car itself needed to communicate its presence from a distance before any of those other signals registered had not entered the design thinking of any department in the country. What entered that thinking was William Henry Parker. Parker became chief of the Los Angeles Police Department in August 1950, and he arrived with a specific vision of what the department should be. Not just how it should operate, how it should look. Parker understood before most police administrators of his era that public confidence in law enforcement was as much a product of perception as performance. A department that looked professional operated with the psychological authority that professional appearance conferred. A department that looked indistinct from any other city fleet was just another government agency driving around in dark-colored cars. Parker wanted LAPD vehicles to be unmistakable. He wanted a resident on a sidewalk to identify a police car from 2 blocks away before the siren sounded or the officer stepped out. He wanted the car itself to communicate presence. The color choice was not arbitrary. Parker's team examined which color combination produced the highest contrast ratio visible to the human eye across the widest range of lighting conditions. Morning fog, afternoon glare, night with headlights. The combination that kept coming back in every lighting scenario was also the simplest possible combination. Maximum contrast, maximum distance visibility, maximum peripheral detection for a driver whose eye was not yet pointed at the vehicle, but whose brain was already processing what was in the edge of their field of vision. Black and white, a choice of maximum contrast. The physics were the same ones that would later be formally documented in federal emergency vehicle conspicuity research. High-contrast two-tone color schemes outperform single colors in detection distance across every lighting condition that matters in a real-world environment. Parker did not have that research in 1950. He had paint samples and common sense and a clarity of purpose about what the car was supposed to do before anyone got out of it. LAPD repainted its fleet, black over white, the most visible combination available on a vehicle that needed to be seen. Jack Webb saw the cars. Webb was a Los Angeles-based actor and producer who in 1951 launched a radio drama called Dragnet based on real LAPD cases. The show moved to television the same year, and Webb insisted on authenticity in every detail. Real case files, real procedures, real LAPD cooperation. and real LAPD vehicles because Webb believed that the visual accuracy of the show was inseparable from the credibility that made audiences trust it. Dragnet put black and white LAPD patrol cars on American television screens starting in 1951. The show ran until 1959. Then it came back in 1967 and ran again until 1970. A combined 18 years of one of the most watched programs in American television history, showing the same two-colored cars week after week until the image achieved something that no marketing campaign could have manufactured deliberately. It became the definition, the universal standard for law enforcement. Not a depiction of what LAPD specifically used, the universal visual shorthand for what a police car was supposed to be. Children who had grown up watching Dragnet became adults who expected the cars in their own cities to match what the screen had told them a police car looked like. Departments in states that had never had any contact with LAPD's design philosophy began receiving feedback from residents who found their solid blue or dark green patrol vehicles somehow less authoritative, less recognizable, less correct than what they had been conditioned to expect. Adam 12 reinforced it from 1968 to 1975. Another Los Angeles-set police drama. Another 18 seasons of black and white vehicles appearing on screen as the baseline visual grammar of American law enforcement. By the time the research confirming Parker's original visibility logic arrived in formal federal studies, the image had already embedded itself into the national visual vocabulary through a channel that research could not have predicted or planned. The spread happened without anyone issuing an instruction. Departments in California converted first because LAPD's proximity and reputation made direct influence straightforward. San Jose adopted the scheme, San Diego, Long Beach, Oakland. Then the television reach carried it east, Phoenix, Dallas, Denver. Departments in cities that had no geographic or administrative connection to Los Angeles began repainting because the color scheme had achieved brand recognition in their jurisdictions that their existing colors had never earned. A dark blue patrol car in Indianapolis in 1965 was a police car to the residents of Indianapolis who saw it every day. To the teenager who had watched 200 episodes of Dragnet, it was the wrong color. Not incorrect in any formal sense. Just visually wrong in the way that a stop sign in the wrong color would be wrong. The image had been standardized not by law, but by repetition across a medium that reached every household in the country simultaneously. Police administrators understood this even when they did not articulate it explicitly. A vehicle that residents instantly recognize at distance requires less siren, less light bar, less fuel burned maintaining presence. The black and white car was doing psychological work before the officer inside it had to do operational work, and the departments that adopted it found the effect real enough to justify the cost of repainting. New York City never converted. Neither did Chicago. Neither did Boston. The major East Coast and Midwest departments that had established their own vehicle identity before Dragnet achieved its full cultural saturation kept their colors. New York's blue and white scheme is as instantly recognizable in New York as black and white is in Los Angeles. The visual vocabulary of law enforcement turned out to be more regional than the television influence had suggested it would be. Cities with enough institutional identity and history resisted the drift toward the California standard because they had already built their own. Then in the 1990s and 2000s, something else happened. Departments that had been running black and white for 40 years began moving away from it. Houston converted to blue and white, Portland to blue, Seattle to blue and white. The shift followed a pattern that had nothing to do with visibility research and everything to do with the relationship between the departments and the communities they served. Black carries historical associations with authority and power that by the end of the 20th century, a number of departments found worth reconsidering. White carries associations with transparency and accountability that had become more politically valuable than the contrasting authority the black had originally been chosen to project. The color scheme that Parker chose in 1950 for maximum visibility had accumulated 60 years of meaning that visibility research had never anticipated, and that some departments decided was no longer the meaning they wanted their vehicles projecting from 2 blocks away. What the black and white was always doing existed on 2 levels simultaneously, and Parker understood both of them in 1950, even if he only articulated one publicly. The first level was physical, high contrast, maximum visibility, the car announcing its presence before anything else about it registered. This was the level Parker put in writing when he explained the decision to his department and later to other administrators who asked about it. The second level was psychological. Black has been the color of institutional authority in Western culture since the robes of judges and the vestments of clergy and the dress uniforms of military officers carried it forward through centuries of governance. White has carried connotations of order and cleanliness and transparency that made it the natural complement to the authority the black was projecting. A black and white police car was not just a high-contrast vehicle. It was a rolling argument about what the institution inside it represented: power and accountability in the same paint job, authority you could see from 2 blocks, and legitimacy you could read from 20 feet. Parker wanted residents to see the car and feel both things at once. The design delivered exactly what he asked it to deliver and kept delivering it for decades after his retirement and death because the image had by then become larger than any single department's decision to keep it or change it. The car that a child draws without being taught to is still making the argument Parker designed it to make in 1950. 2 colors chosen for visibility became the visual language of American law enforcement. The visibility was physics. The language was something else entirely. And the television show that carried both across the country did it so completely that most Americans alive today have never once considered that it could have looked any different. It almost did not look like this at all. 1 chief, 1 city, 1 repainting order. Everything after that was just the country catching up to what Los Angeles had already decided.